Hello, I'm Casey Dinges, Senior Managing Director for the American Society of Civil Engineers. Thanks for joining us today for a discussion on how to prepare for a possible cyber attack. My guest today is Michael Chipley, President of the PMC Group and a cybersecurity expert with more than 30 years in environmental and sustainable design, infrastructure, and disaster recovery. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Casey. Delighted to be here.
Michael, several years ago, the entire power grid in eastern Ukraine was taken down by a cyber attack. A subsequent attack originating in Ukraine had worldwide implications on shipping and healthcare. Has the cyber war already started?
Actually, we've been at Cyberwar for several decades. It's just the matter that most people don't realize it and don't see it in their everyday lives. As technology continues to progress, we're going to see that artificial intelligence and machine learning are going to take these cyber attacks to the next level. So what we can do now, both for our traditional IT systems, and as you mentioned, critical infrastructure, or what we call operational technologies, is put in place policies, procedures, and technology to mitigate and eliminate those attacks to the best degree possible.
You began to touch upon it, but what types of attack might we face in the future?
So a little background on that. I'm a retired Air Force civil engineer and still primarily support the Department of Defense in the installations, energy, and water community. So the Department of Defense has actually been very proactive now in identifying our critical infrastructure and putting in place what we call facility-related control systems, protections, and mitigations. So we start by now designing cybersecurity in from the beginning of a project. And then we, as we build it and construct it, we deliver a clean system. And then as we operate and maintain it, we make sure that it stays clean and can recover from attack. So we know that we can't stop everything, but we can try to eliminate and mitigate as much of it as possible.
We've seen cyber terrorists attack infrastructure. What have we learned from those attacks?
First thing that we have to do is get these control systems and your personal systems off of the public internet and exposed to where anybody can see them. So that's what we call network segmentation, and then putting everything behind traditional IT firewalls and trying to eliminate the public exposure of your computer and your IT assets.
Are all the sectors threatened here? Are there any that you see as most vulnerable or more vulnerable than others?
There's no one sector that's more important than all. We're all interconnected. But I'll come back to your point about the power grid. So power grid's a perfect case where without power, none of the other sectors can function. And without telecommunications, the other sectors can't function.
Right.
So what we're trying to do now is implement cybersecurity across the sectors. And as I mentioned, the Department of Homeland Security Critical Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, is the lead for that across the government.
Are there now, or should there be, comprehensive initiatives to protect our nation's critical infrastructure? What would a broad initiative look like?
Well, it's actually been a presidential executive order going back to 1998, protecting the critical infrastructure. Various executive orders and legislation have been come out that, again, establish the Department of Homeland Security, requires the Department of Defense to implement for defense critical infrastructure. There is actually a broad strategy, and then it's rolled out from the Department of Homeland Security as the National Infrastructure Protection Plan, or the NIP. And then each of the federal agencies plays a key role in implementing for their assets those protection plans. And then there's actually been, as you called it, a broad initiative for many, many years. But most folks are, typically not aware of the relationship between all the infrastructure that we use every day, whether that's our highway system, our rail systems, our aviation systems, and then the connection to the control systems that actually make those systems function, and how vulnerable those control systems are to cyber attack. And that is still where we have work to do.
And speaking of every day and today now, with the current pandemic, are we more vulnerable? And if so, in what areas?
So again, I'll separate between the traditional IT systems versus our operational technology or our control systems.
Mm-hmm.
the control systems that are not properly secured, they are still as vulnerable as ever. And awareness is slowly gaining, and efforts are being made to ensure that those control systems are segmented and secured and continuously monitored. On the traditional IT side of the house, where we see phishing and whaling and ransomware attacks, that has actually become, under this pandemic, more vulnerable. And now you've seen certainly the Zoom bombing and the number of work-at-home folks that are now clicking on phishing emails because they don't have perhaps the same level of IT monitoring from your IT staff. So folks are being phished more and they're being exploited more.
What should we do right away? One thing or several things? Anything top of mind?
So one of the things that we have done at the Department of Defense, as I mentioned, we have the requirements now for protecting controlled unclassified information. Everybody's personally responsible now for ensuring that their IT systems that have this critical infrastructure data on it are protected. We have a website. It's on our Environmental Security Technology Certification Program website. That is our research and development component for installations, energy, and water. And we've put a great amount of information. We've got templates, we've got checklists, we've got resources, tools that any organization can download and use for both their IT assets as well as their OT control system assets. And we're starting to see rest of industries, again, following along those same lines. And so the sooner we can put cybersecurity in the planning and design phases, the better we will get at building secure systems.
Michael, thank you for joining me today for this timely discussion on cybersecurity.
Thank you for having me, Casey.
For more information on ASCE's Interchange program, visit asce.org/interchange. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on the ASCE Interchange.